Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Spoiled Onions Show and Review Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon, and my co-host, Joseph. Say hi, Joyo.
Yo, what up, guys? Thanks for joining us again today.
Hey, this time we're reviewing Hail, Caesar. This movie was directed by the Coen Brothers, Ethan and Joel Coen, known for their movies like The Big Lebowski and Fargo, the original. I actually have not seen either of those. However, I have studied some scenes from The Big Lebowski, and from what I understand, there's a very... Oh, wait, I've seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Have they? Did they do that one? Did they do that one? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Well,
I just studied a scene, if you will, from The Big Lebowski. It's the one where he's throwing the ashes in the water, but instead it hits the dude guy in the face. Oh, so funny.
Well, you know what? Literally, now that I know they also did Brother, Where Art Thou? All their movies are always so strange. It's not strange in a bad way. It's like different in the way that other films try to be cinematic. They're all about that awkward silence at times, like almost realism in that sense, for where it's like one moment you have something very theatrical and dramatic, and the next it's very grounded and very like real in the sense of come on and struggle as if we're recording something live. It's like, well, this is interesting, this is weird and quirky, and I think it's always intentional on their side. I think they just like to have some fun with how they go about doing these films and these scripts. But Hail Caesar has a pretty big cast. Of course, it has George Clooney, Josh Brolin, Alden Ehrenreich before he did Solo, Channing Tatum, Scarlett Johansson. The list really does go on, and people just show up that I'm like, hey, I didn't know he was in this.
Yeah, it's really weird because you watch it, and this is the case with almost every film that has such a full cast, but it's like glorified cameos almost. You're like, especially Jonah Hill. I'm pretty sure he had just that one scene. It's like, okay, well, cool.
Yeah, all right. I'm like, okay.
He's like, he came to set one day, and then they're like, all right, grab a cup of coffee. Here's your check. Thanks. Bye-bye.
What's sad is that I bet I know what happened with that, but I'll explain later about why it is his scene might have been so short.
You think they cut out some of
No.
it?
No. Okay, well, actually, I believe it has a lot to do with contracts, but we don't need to talk about that right now. Right now, I think first we need to do the opening a trailer soundtrack. Go ahead, roll that trailer sounds.
Oh, yeah.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned.
How long since your last confession, my son?
27 hours.
It's really too often. You're not that bad.
Here at Capitol Pictures, as you know, millions of people look to us for information and uplift and, yes, entertainment. And we're going to give it to them.
And action. An army of technicians and actors and top-notch artistic people are working hard to bring to the screen
Our biggest release of the year. Hail Caesar is a prestige picture with one of the biggest stars in the world, Baird Whitlock.
That was beautiful. I'm sure there was music. There was, like some very cinematic music and stuff.
Probably. I think I remember it. All the trailers were always super broad, and I didn't know necessarily what the movie was about from the trailer, which is usually what you hope for from a trailer. You don't want to know. Most, comic book movies, sci-fi movies show everything in the trailer, right? The Hail Caesar trailer, I'm like, what is this?
Listen, I have seen a lot of trailers in my day, and I have a theory that no one knows how to make a good trailer because most of them suck.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, this is kind of a tangent, but I think if there's someone whose literal job is just to make trailers, they need to step up their game. So yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes they know what works. All they care about is getting you in the seat. If you felt like you just saw the whole movie and it butchered it. Now, there's a difference between enticing and actually getting somebody in the seats. Because if they can't get a guaranteed fun experience, I ain't going.
But here's the thing, though. Like, a trailer should leave you so excited about the film that you just can't wait. And instead, most of the time you get some weird smashing together of like 3 different songs, one of which isn't even a song, it's just like that emotional music. and then like random bits of dialogue that are kind of supposed to help you understand the story, but really aren't because they don't want you to know all the story. And then when the dialogue comes in, the music gets turned down, and then the dialogue cuts out, and the music goes back up, and there's like this weird action scene. It's just terrible. It's terrible editing, 80% of the time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You like the Batman trailer?
I love the Batman trailer, guys. That is one of...
I know what kind of trailers you like.
Listen, there are only 2 trailers that I have truly loved. One is that one, which everyone should go watch right now. We'll link in bio. And the second one... I know, I say that, and it's like, oh, wow, when this actually comes out...
Link in bio.
Link in bio. Anyway, the second one is Age of Ultron, which was... The movie was a disappointment. I think the trailer is a work of art, though.
I don't even remember, but... Oh, wait, you know what? Yes, I do. The Pinocchio one.
Yes, the Pinocchio slow song, and then at the end he comes out and he's like, "There are no strings on me," and it's just like,
"Strings on me." Yeah, I get it though. I get what you're saying. Like,
it's so good.
You don't fully know.
Well, you don't know the whole plot, but like you're like, the choice of music fits the film perfectly. Yeah. Like I thought the Nirvana song for the Batman trailer did well. This is such a getting lost in the weeds. But you know, the music,
that's perfectly great.
Well, the music fits what you're trying to show, and then you're building it. Like the Batman is such a great example because we have no idea what's going on. We don't even know if that's actually the Riddler or not. Mm-hmm. But we get the idea that there's some dude causing chaos, and Batman's got to figure it out. It's just good. It's well done. But anyway,
I mean, even if you didn't know who Batman was, imagine this. Just imagine for half a second that we did not know Batman as a character prior to this trailer coming out. We didn't know anything of this character. Is that trailer set up that would make you go, "What is this?"
Exactly.
The Batman. What is this, like a guy who's dressed up like this? He's working with cops. What is this guy? Some sort of super cop or something like that? Some sort of detective-like guy? Who is this? Why is he so strong? What is he? Right? And maybe that's exactly how the film is going to play out. But with that actually being said, it kind of reminds me that the way those trailers are fashioned are kind of like how the Coen Brothers movies tend to play out story-wise, you know, synopsis-wise. Because it's like, I can't pinpoint what the stereotypical plot is going to be of this film until it's already over. By the time it's done, I can now jot down, okay, what was the plot, right? And try to put little markers here and there, because it's not necessarily a linear path of conflict one after the other that you're actually knowing what's going to happen. It's more like things are happening, and each thing is enticing in and of itself, and it's just locking onto you by the time you get to the next scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be... I've only seen 2 Coen Brothers films, but I think there's something to be said for the way they approach storylines. And I think you really pretty much explained it earlier. But from this movie and from the other one I saw, which was Inside Llewyn Davis, it feels as if they're taking like 3 days out of a person's life and just filming it, right?
Yeah.
It still feels like a logical storyline, and we should probably break down the plot here in a second. But it's random enough to feel real, you know. It's very interesting how they approach it.
Yeah, you know, okay, let's talk about the plot then right now for a second. Awesome. Try to talk about the plot, because I was so surprised what ended up being the biggest conflict of this story. I was like, interesting. I was not suspecting this. Huh?
Exactly.
Huh? I'm like, every moment I'm going like, it made me smile almost, because I'm like, this movie is so fun in the non-traditional sense. It's not fun because big boom boom. It's fun because you just genuinely don't know what little thing is gonna go where, and it's so nice that every scene in itself is like an art canvas. Now let me say, I do have criticisms, but we'll get there. But that every scene seems to be its own contained art canvas, and I think the reason why that's the case is that I think the movie is very meta. The word is metatextual, in that it's commentating on itself while itself is playing out. It's not a fourth wall break in the sense that we're talking about, talking to the audience and talking to ourselves. But the things that it discusses are the same things that this movie, in fact, inhabits. Such as one of the movies that is happening in this film is that prestige-looking, or I should say pristine-looking, commoner kind of movie that the Alden Ehrenreich, the cowboy, goes into. And his accent and all that's there, and it's messing up. And the director explains to Thanos that
Eddie Mannix. Eddie Mannix.
Yes, Eddie. That this is an adaptation of a theater show, that it deserves more respect. You shouldn't give it to this person, kind of thing. And I caught on. I was like, wait a minute, right? Many scenes in movies back in the 60s were a lot more plotted out like that of a theater, in which you have consistent characters from scene to scene. You'll bring back an actor later on, because that actor in and of themselves is a highlight. And the scene in itself is very contained to its setting and doesn't feel the need to have to run all over the place like a theater show. I especially noticed it during the dining scene between Alden Ehrenreich and that Latin lady, that it felt like a theater show, and these other characters just show up that are just these reoccurring things that seems like, is this really necessary? But in a theater show, that's what brings it its charm. And the thing is, it breaks that every once in a while, that theater-like aspect. Out of nowhere, it'll be very serious and a little bit more modern, and then revert back and then be a little bit more silly. So it's like interesting. Very interesting. That is what really subverting an expectation is about.
Yeah.
This is what I'd say is a genuine act of subverting the expectation, because it's not like going with a plot point that seems obvious and doing the opposite. Rather, it's that I can't even tell what the plot was going to do from the start.
Right. It's very well done. But anyway, let me just give a brief overview on the plot.
Yes.
Basically, the protagonist of the story. I say basically every time I do this plot synopsis. As if these movies are so easy.
Let me break it down for you.
Right. So as always, we want you guys to watch the movie before you hear. But if you haven't, or if you have and it's been a while, we'll catch you up to speed. So Josh Brolin is the protagonist as Eddie Mannix. He is what does his sign on his door say? He's like the director of physical film production or something like that.
What? Eddie is?
Yeah, I think
Eddie
that's what it was.
He's by the way, so Eddie is a real person in the real world. Everybody else is a parody of actors that existed in the past, but Eddie Mannix was a film producer who was
he? Wait. You're saying this guy actually existed?
Yes. Eddie Mannix as a person.
What?
Yes.
What?
But the thing is, this is a fictional tale that pays homage to real people, but Eddie Mannix is the only one by name that actually existed. All the others are parodies of other actors that existed, but they're using different names and obviously different movies.
I did not know that. That's kind of cool.
Eddie Mannix, Joseph Edgar Allen, John Eddie Mannix is his full name, was an American film studio executive and producer. He is remembered for his work protecting Hollywood stars as a fixer, a person paid to disguise details of the stars' often colorful private lives to maintain their public image. Mm-hmm. So he's a producer for whatever company he was, and he would go out of his way with these stars and whatever might be going around to be the fixer in the name of the production company.
Yeah, shout out to Wikipedia for that. We'll link to that article in the bio. Also, by the way, they're running a fundraiser. $275 is all it takes to keep them alive. So we'll link to that in the bio.
They keep on asking every other month.
Listen.
How many times?
They've got to pay the people, all right?
They said, your donation, just this one-time donation, next day, hey guys, we're back for more!
We should get
How many people are running this site?
I don't know. Well, there's a server at least that they got to pay for, and then there's the people that monitor all the... Anyway. That being said, so Eddie Mannix, apparently he was a real dude who was a fixer, but, he's basically... In the movie, he does a lot of stuff. He's a busy man. Kind of
good plot point. All right, now moving on. No.
No, but it's almost the central... If you will, it's like a soft climax of the film. It's the soft conflict because that is really his issue. He's always busy. He's always doing something. But he has a family.
Yeah.
And he's also pretty much running the show at this production company as both a fixer and just kind of a supervisor. And then the loose plot that carries us through the film is that one of their major blockbuster films that's coming out called Hail Caesar, which is where the movie gets its name, the the main star gets kidnapped, which is George Clooney's character, Baird Whitlock. So production comes to a slight halt. I mean, they work around it. But we find out that he was actually kidnapped by communists, oddly enough. Yeah, plot twist. Plot twist that we should have seen coming if this was like an actual 70s movie.
There's no way I could have ever guessed that was the direction it was going to go.
Yes. So very, very surprising.
No way. It's awesome.
Yeah, so he gets captured by these communists who demand a ransom in order for the studio to get him back. Now, their logic behind this is they're actually screenwriters. And this is backstory. This is such a satire for Hollywood during the Red Scare because everyone was getting blamed as a communist, and a lot of screenwriters were blamed as communists and actually convicted wrongfully or rightfully. We don't know, but yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, you know, America's always kind of been crazy, but that was an especially crazy time.
That's kind of funny then in another sense.
I think it's definitely a satire for that, but the whole film's a satire.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they come up with the ransom, and they give it over. But George Clooney's character he's actually getting along well with the communists. He's finding it to be a club, and a social club at that. And but these writers, really, their main goal is to get this money because they feel that they, as the common man, the people who write the films, have not been paid enough for their work, while the studio is profiting from the scripts they have written. And that's why they're mad, right? And then the film introduces a slew of other characters, such as Alden Ehrenreich's characters, Hobie Doyle, who's supposed to be a famous movie star, more in the cowboy genre. Then you got Ralph Fiennes as Lawrence. Basically Lawrence Lawrence is his name. Who's like the snooty British BBC director type deal. Then you got Scarlett Johansson as Deanna Moran, who's, I guess, described as an Esther Williams type actress. And so on and so forth. Tilda Swinton is a reporter. But basically all of these characters push that one narrative forward to the resolution of the conflict, which is the money is given over, George Clooney is rescued, production continues, and all returns back to normal with the main protagonist, who has been navigating this minefield of conflicts, Josh Brolin, still doing his thing. And that's how the film pretty much... And interestingly enough, I'll put it here because it's kind of part of the plot. A Coen Brothers technique is to begin the film and end the film almost the same way. And you see that in this film because it begins with our protagonist, Eddie Mannix, confessing to the priest because he's a Catholic. And then it ends the same way he's confessing to the priest. And so that concludes the movie with a lot of other stuff. Awkward silence.
Oh, sorry. Did you say a sentence? I heard a with a lot. That's what I heard.
Well, there you go. Yeah, my connection must be weird, but
okay, we're gonna have to cut this out, Joseph.
Don't
worry.
We'll
make sure to cut this off. They won't suspect a thing. I'm gonna just say, "Wow, that was a good outline, Joseph." Here I go. 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Hey, that was a good outline, Joseph. Thank you for that brief overview of the movie Hail Caesar. Well, then in that case, let's point out some specific scenes that stood out to us, because that really is a pretty broad outline for what is, frankly, it's actually a shorter movie than most. It's only like an hour and 38 minutes. And then there's short credit time. And for an hour and 38 minutes to have so many different things going on at once, Yeah, I mean, hey, I think that happens easier when there's not drama scenes happening out. And what I mean by that is like melodramatic scenes playing out.
Yeah.
So when it's a gag or something like that, you can just, or if it's just some sort of detailed scene and how fast they're speaking, exposition scene, I should say, then it just plays out a little bit faster. And it's not like there's like action sequences, right? The most of the conflicts are ones that are just character between character conflict.
Yeah,
but I guess let's.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say.
I forgive you.
I'm forgiven, guys. Anyway, I mean, it moves at a steady clip. I think the pacing is actually really well done on it because I never felt aware of the time to the point where I was like, this is dragging out, and it captured really well his busy schedule. Because the man is always moving around from place to place. It's actually kind of cool. I know we're going to get into scenes and whatnot, but just how brief scenes are, right? So especially those dinner scenes where he's contemplating the job offer. He sits down. The guy says like 3 sentences, and then he's like, "All right, got to go."
Yeah, exactly.
And I just love
that. It's kind of sad.
I love that. Anyway, sorry.
Well, actually, that's going to play into the moral, which we'll talk about later on. But let's talk about certain scenes, and let's start with in order of things that I can appreciate. Let's start with Alden Ehrenreich. Aw, Alden, he played Han Solo, but this is before that. It was a little bit before Han Solo, and I think this was essentially the most famous thing he had done before Han Solo. He comes in. I liked his cowboy scene. Clearly, it was a stunts thing. But for a little bit there, I was wondering, like, am I going to be able to see his acting really come to fruition here? He's not getting too many lines. He's kind of just walking around. And it really came into play when he had that comedic scene with the Lawrence director. And he was trying to have to correct him. Because I'm just like, I heard he was a good actor in this. Let me see. Right? And having to both have the accent and the demeanor and the ability to fumble around and really play with Lawrence the director and all that, while in a very meta sense having a literal director in that room filming a set of a film set, right? It takes a level of concentration. It just felt so real and fun. And when he would go back into shooting a film, he'd act like in that awkward actor act, and it's like I was just like, hey, I like this. And I wonder, like, how much of the stuff was real with the cowboy things. Like, when he had the lasso and whatnot beside the car, I was like, is that real?
I think that was CG.
You think it was CGI?
That takes an incredible amount of skill.
Well, I mean, hey, he got paid.
Listen,
he didn't have too many scenes.
I don't know. We'd have to look it up.
Well, let's also talk about the communists. I love when George Clooney wakes up. I'm with George. I'm just walking through and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be scared or am I in trouble? And they're like, oh, go through there. He goes through there, and I'd be worried if I was him. I thought they were going to threaten his life and all that. They're like, oh, please, take a seat. And he's just like, okay. Yeah. I am so confused as to everything that's going on. What else am I going to do? Sure. I'll just sit down. He's super nonchalant, and they're all talking around and all that stuff. And I'm just like, this is so funny. It's funny in a different way. It's not like I'm bursting out laughing. It's funny in a way that I'm smiling the whole time watching the scene, because it's just like, this is so not what you'd expect to happen in this sort of scenario. And here it is playing out in a reasonable pace, and you're just like, this is happening. We're sitting down with, and I didn't know they were communists. That's the funny thing, is that they were talking about things, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I agree. I hear what they're saying. I totally understand what they're saying. History, economics, that makes sense. Yeah, I hear them, right? I'm with George Clooney the whole time. And the narrator, as they're zooming out, is just like, and that's how Baird was abducted by the communists. And I'm like, wait,
I know,
what?
Right?
What are you talking about? The communists? What are we talking about? Here's a little fun fact before I let you jump in here. You know that guy with the mustache in the background who they kept telling to shut up? Be quiet?
Yeah. Is he an actual communist in real life?
Well, I don't know.
Fun fact: this is a communist leader in real life.
Yeah, right. Because of his mustache, he walked on set. No, at first I thought that was the guy who played Doc Ock in Spider-Man. It looked like him.
Oh, no.
I was like, is that him? Well, no, it's actually somebody completely different. It's a guy named David Krumholtz, which I'm like, well, who's that, right? I go to the images. You will not believe who this guy is. You saw the original The Santa Claus with Tim Allen?
Yeah.
You remember the head elf of the North Pole, the tall one?
Yeah.
It's him!
Oh, goodness.
Bernard! It's him!
Plot
This
twist.
fat 49-year-old with a mustache guy is Bernard from the Santa Claus!
Yeah, dude.
How?
There's a picture of him when he was young, and wow. Lots
It's
changed.
kind of sad. Because it's like, you look nothing like you did. You're 40... Oh, he's 42. But still, like, wow, that's dedication to the role. Did you get fat? Did you make yourself communist for the movie? It's what do you call that? What do you call that with that type of acting? Method acting.
Yeah, in the special features, he has a whole, a little episode where he talks about how he spent time in Russia, in Siberia, just to get to know what the Russian Soviet mind was like, and how he ate nothing but Twinkies to get in shape for the role. It's kind of bad.
That's what communists do, apparently. Hey, man, what scene stood out to you?
Oh goodness!
What scene you want to talk about?
You know, I don't even know if a scene in general stuck out to me. I really just have like this overwhelming list, if you will. It's not even a list. There's a couple things of just moments where, and well, I'll just explain, right? Like when when George Clooney, it's funny because I'm gonna piggyback off of your scene.
Yeah.
When George Clooney gets up, it's just awesome because I think it's the best example of Coen Brothers filmmaking. Because he sits down, right? And in a normal movie, he'd just sit down and the plot would continue. But what happens? He like sits down wrong on his sword and like hurts his side. He's like, and he gets up. And then on top of that, he gets up, right? And it's a really tense moment. And then there's just a woman vacuuming randomly, like for no reason. And you hit on it earlier, but it's just so awesome. There's so many things in this movie that are random and make it feel so real, because in reality things they're not as smooth as cinema would like us to believe. And it's crazy because the rule of movies is don't make it like real life because people don't want that. But the Coen Brothers constantly do that. You know, other examples are like the suitcase when he has it stuffed full of money. He can't close it. And it's like, that's actually a real problem that would happen. I don't know. And there's so much interruption of dialogue, like when you actually speak in real life, actually on this podcast right now, you interrupt each other. It's kind of how conversation works. But in movies, that's often not the case. So, anyway, I have a question for you. What did you think about the narration?
What do you mean?
Well, you know how there's like a dude that randomly like narrates certain parts of the movie, not the whole movie, but select parts of the movie.
Yeah, I actually can't tell who that's supposed to be. I heard that was... I don't know. I if you're asking whether or not I like it, no, I don't mind it at all. I think it actually... I think that goes into part of the moral. And what these directors might be saying with this film. And it's not a lot. And honestly, I think they kind of are just talking with us as an audience. They're just saying things and wanting to say, they're just starting that conversation with some things. If I'm going to jump into moral, I know you're asking about the narration, but it's just like, well, I think what they're doing is that that's supposed to be like that of a deistic commentator of Eddie's reality. And since Eddie Mannix is a real person, unlike all these other people in this story, it's talking about his reality and his higher purpose. And every time he's narrating, it's almost as if it's always within the crucial points. There are, if we really want to get into this, I'm having to talk to everybody listening to this podcast. I just watched this movie, and so did Joseph. But there's actually deeper messages going on in this than I think many of the other Coen Brothers movies have. And what I mean by that is that the symbolisms and subtlety of the symbolisms throughout the film are purposefully subtle, that those who are either in the movie industry can catch it, or those who just are expecting there to be these, sort of metaphors going on are catching it. Because at first I didn't notice. But then when I really thought about it, I was like, wait a minute. And one of those things are this idea, the higher powers, if you will. Communism in itself, right, was in its own society considered like that of a religion without that of being a religion, right? It is in its nature competitive with that of other religions, right? They find the higher power to be that of the higher state, right? And they give off their cause. When they're in the boats off to the submarine, these angelic chants are going off. And they're passing it off. Go, do it for the higher cause. And it's paralleled again with George Clooney when he is with filming the scene of the Christ. And his whole speech is leading up and speaking upwards and this angelic thing, and then is immediately cut off with this idea of faith. And a lot of this stuff is getting wrapped up with Josh Brolin when he goes to the priest once again, simply asking that oftentimes the higher calling is that which is the hard thing to do, and not necessarily what is the easy thing, because the easy thing may even feel good, but what feels best is when one is fulfilled through doing what is hard. And so all that to say is that I believe the narrator is purposefully placed there to make one realize that this story is supposed to have some sort of transcendent meaning, that without the narrator is only in and of itself. But having a narrator uplifts it to being more than just we're looking at their lives. Somebody else is worthy of explaining what is going on internally in that person. I know that was a lot.
no, that was really good. I think that, yeah, I concur, if you will. That's good. Yes. Yeah, it never felt. Sometimes there's voiceover and it just feels annoying. But yeah, I never felt that way with this movie. I was just like, oh, cool. And I think it also adds to the satire of the film because, this film is really designed to poke fun at the world back then, and you're like, well, I thought you said it was immoral. Well, yeah, that's the whole point of satire. It's to evoke immoral through making fun of something, if you will. I think it's even the film itself is described as a comedy, which, for those of you who might want to watch it for laughs, it's not necessarily a comedy that's going to make you laugh, but it's a comedy in the sense that it's there's irony at play, and it's almost as if you're watching one of those classic newspaper cartoons that pokes fun at something. And I think the narration is just part of that, because back then, the narration maybe played a bigger part.
So how'd you feel about Channing Tatum actually being a communist?
And
then once you answer that, I also want to know what you felt about his character in this movie actually being a communist.
Oh goodness! Holy cow! Okay, I didn't.
In that order, please. In the movie,
I didn't know Channing Tatum was actually a communist in real life, but it's a free country. So, as long as you don't take over the country and make it not a free country, we're good.
Uh-oh, you just triggered our communist fans. Did you not realize we have 500,000 Russians listening to us? Oh wait, Russians aren't communists.
Russians aren't communists anymore. I wonder what
Russian veterans listening to us right now.
If they watch these movies.
What was that?
I was just like, I wonder if they watch these movies. They probably don't, but
yeah.
I wonder if they if America is the enemy in their films a lot of the time.
It'll be capital. It's reversed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, but yeah, how'd you feel about Bert Gurney? See, you don't even remember that name. Channing Tatum in this movie actually being a communist.
It was just super weird. Is just how I felt. Because when they shot that scene where Alden Ehrenreich's character finds out, it was so suspenseful, and it's like, oh my gosh. And it's normally when a film does that, you're like, oh wow, it was that guy. But instead, you're just like, wait, what? And it's fine. I don't think it makes the plot worse. I don't know that it only makes the plot weirder, which is what this film is kind of going for. So I guess it's good. Yeah. You know, that whole scene where he like with the sub, I was just like, what happened? Where is this going?
What is this?
Oh man, it was weird. I guess he just abandoned his acting career for, you know.
No, don't you see? It was actually that he was a communist spy.
Right.
And he was acting in a film, just as Han Solo. Am I really going to go by their most famous title? Han Solo and Thanos. No. Alden Ehrenreich was saying is that you got to look at those extras and all that. And I didn't think he was an extra, but
he's not an extra. He was doing the whole dance number.
He was a communist spy the whole time. And these guys were the United States Communist Party. And they said, no, you must take the money for the main cause. And he's so flamboyant. It's funny. I'm like, wait a minute, is this supposed to be serious or not? Apparently not. Even I thought they were filming on a set. I thought they were filming on a set at first because the moon and all that looked so fake, and I was just like, is this real? Is this a dream or something? Then when they threw the suitcase and it went under the water, it rose up because of the air pocket. My natural thought is, oh, quick, jump in. Get it. Everybody just watched it go down. I'm like, what is going on?
And then he takes
the
dog.
That's $100,000.
Oh, man.
This doesn't make sense. Not that it's stupid. It was funny, but it's just like, why did we do everything we just did? As if it wasn't that valuable or something.
Well, again.
Moreover, is not this submarine traveling all the way to the United States and this entire process of what they've done more expensive than $100,000?
Listen.
I don't understand.
This is a satire. It's not supposed to make sense. I mean, we could also talk about how the woman's scarf got caught in the machine. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. But
it probably is doing a wink at, like you said, the screenwriters and how so many people were claiming them to be communists, and they were, and the directors are like, "Oh yeah, they're communist, all right. They're getting their paddle boats off the coast and sending off the suitcase of money off to a submarine from the communists. That's what they're doing."
Yeah, it's definitely critiquing. I mean, the whole movie is critiquing that era, and it's not even just the communists. It's like that, the way movies were made. Movies were so, it's so weird when people will tell me the golden age of Hollywood, and they'll use it to describe this 50s era where every single movie was the same, basically. There was some, female protagonist and some other dude, and they fell in love, and there was some storyline about it. And I'm just like, those movies were so cut and dry. There was no real substance to them. I don't know.
Well, actually, I think there's a pretty big reason as to why that's the case. Okay. I believe that it was done that way because back in a time for where there weren't the quantities of movies being released as we have today, and in a time for where a production company may get, let's just say in a good year, 6 movies done. Right,
yeah,
let's just say. Maybe more. It just depends. If it's going nationwide, you don't write stories that are creative and stretching the bounds because you know what works. You're doing it for money, but moreover, what the audience wants is hope. What audience wants is romance. That's what sells. It's what they want to see, and even though it's redundant, it's what they expect from their film, knowing that there's only so many films that come out in a year. This idea of there's no nihilistic ideas. There's always a happy ending. It's very front, it's very onward looking, right? Wizard of Oz style filmmaking, right?
Right.
Especially after the wars.
Well, yeah, and that's fair. Like, I totally agree. But why do people look to that as like the best years of Hollywood when I think now, well, maybe not so much now with the blockbuster craving that the world has, but perhaps in a time where there are so many films and there is so much room to experiment and be creatively different, it's just weird to me that people would look and say the golden age of Hollywood. Oh, it was so much better back then when it really wasn't. People, they'll sit me down and we'll watch some old movie and it's like winner of 20 Academy Awards. And I'm like, well, there was only like 6 movies. Like, I mean, it wasn't that hard.
I feel the same way actually with Citizen Kane. It actually gets me angry. Gets me angry. Because it came out like I think 2 years after The Wizard of Oz, but everybody throws up Citizen Kane like, look at the revolutionary shot of. This is what I saw in film class, guys. Look at the revolutionary shot of it hovering above her face. It's very menacing. And it's like, dude, this doesn't even have color. And now I know you're probably going to say, yeah, but that's not every. I know it's not everything. But like a painting, okay, color will make so much more of a difference when it comes to expressing emotion and tone of a shot. Or just the sets, special effects, musical numbers, the dance, all the above, right? All that was in like Wizard of Oz, revolutionary. But you're gonna make me watch Citizen Kane? Why? Why? Why is that so crazy?
I think sometimes, I think for back then it was probably really groundbreaking, and sometimes people No, it wasn't. I'm telling. See, you're getting paid off. Your film writers, your film class teachers were communists, and they're paying you off to say this. Don't listen to him, guys. He's been compromised. Well, this is how I feel about The Godfather, though. People are always like, oh, The Godfather was a turning point in film. And I watched it, I'm like, this is just, it's all right. I didn't think it was, like, great.
I actually haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Oh, well.
But if you want us to watch that film, everybody, just put down into the comments out.
Yeah. Just comment, like, an emoji with a little blade and, like, a heart and, like, an Italian dude.
Hey, you want to know something really crazy?
Sure.
And I just saw this while looking through the cast. You know the submarine that came up and the guy who came out of it?
Sure. I don't really remember him, but sure.
Exactly. I didn't see his face, right?
Yeah.
I was like, well, who's that? That was Dolph Lundgren. Lundgren?
Okay.
That was the guy who played in Rocky IV, the Russian boxer.
Oh my goodness!
That was him. That's the Swedish actor. He's in a bunch of stuff, but that's the one movie that's coming to my mind.
That is like the ultimate satire of this film.
If I saw it in a theater, probably I would have been able to see his face, but it's just like, that's just funny. It's like, really? You flew him all the way out here just to get him to be in the communist submarine ship.
Well, this hold on. Its budget was, I think it was $22 million. Let me just fact check that.
Yeah, it is.
22 million. Yeah, so literally they spent, $5 million on shooting, and the rest was just all the actors and actresses.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
And the directors, I guess. Wonder how much they get paid.
One last actor call out.
Okay.
Clancy Brown. I like Clancy Brown. I want him in more movies.
Wait,
Clancy Brown was the guy who was with. He was the guy who was with George Clooney. And he was next to him, the Roman in the crucifixion scene.
Oh, he did look familiar.
You know who he is? You know who that? That's Mr. Krabs.
Oh, intriguing.
He's Mr. Krabs. But he plays in a lot of decent stuff in the backgrounds here and there. But really where he shined was in a video game, a cinematic video game called Detroit Become Human, in which you make these decisions and all that. It's not an action-based game. It's a decision-based game in which an entire story plays out. And his acting in it was very, very good. I wish he did more because he's actually a good actor.
Well, I'm sure he's got a little... He was in Thor Ragnarok, apparently.
Yeah, well, wasn't he like the giant demon or something? He was the giant demon that destroyed everything.
That makes sense because I don't remember seeing him.
Yeah, he was the giant monster that destroyed everything.
Yeah, but that's fun though. Like voice acting, man, that's where it's at. Because then you just sit in the studio and you just like read the script and you're like just have fun with it. That's fun.
Well, to be fair, he's getting more movie roles than any of the other cast in SpongeBob, so he's getting some going for him. I mean, who else? Tom Kenny's not saying I'm standing next to George Clooney.
That's fair. Well, I'm a little sad for Alden Ehrenreich because, this was kind of a big film for him, and then Star Wars would supposedly have been the next logical step, and then of course everyone hated that film for like no reason, and now I hope he makes some other cool stuff because I think he's pretty decent actor.
It's actually, after watching this film, what it was with Solo is that I think he genuinely looked like Han Solo more in this movie than he did in the Han Solo movie. Yeah. And the reason why I think that is because he had the stubble on his face in the Han Solo movie. Looked all rugged and crunchy. And he was also thicker. He was super skinny in this movie compared to the second one, in which he was a little bit more muscular or whatnot. And I think that might have been a bad decision. I think they should have made him as young and young looking as possible, just like in this movie, right?
Well, but
I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, who's walking into the Han Solo movie thinking, I want this to look just... I mean, we know it's not Han Solo or Harrison Ford. We know that. I mean, would you rather have had one of those CGI face doubles, for the whole film? I hope not, because that would have been stupid.
The sad thing is that there's actually a lot to this controversy, right? That I actually, after seeing this film, I do like Alden. I do like him. And I think he actually, after watching this film, is like, yeah, that's a logical choice for a Han Solo.
Yes.
I think I'd have to blame the costumers and all that, because I really think that they may have gone down the wrong path when designing the way he should look. But there was another actor who played the younger version of Harrison Ford in other movies of him, and he looks literally like him. But then again,
wait, which guy? What do you mean? Who's that?
You don't... Okay, well, give me half a second. Harrison Ford.
The
Age of Adeline was the movie. The Age of Adeline was the movie that he was in. If you look up young Harrison Ford, Age of Adeline, you will get thrown across the room right now. It wasn't CGI.
It was just a dude?
It was just an actor who looked exactly like him. He did impressions and all that on YouTube, and he got the role.
Okay, I see the guy.
Do you see it?
I mean, it's close.
It's literally him.
I mean, it looks like a different. Oh, okay. I see this picture where he's smirking. Okay.
Do the young one. Do the young. You got to see a GIF or something. You got to see a GIF.
Okay. Well, what is he just not experienced enough for Star Wars? That's probably what it was then.
I think it was that he's not actually that good of an actor, probably. Yeah. But if you looked at the interviews, see, this is why the controversy is a controversy. Is that they said the directors, the original directors of the Han Solo movie, they said that Alden Ehrenreich was the first person out of 400 people who auditioned for Han Solo, and they just went with the first guy. They were like, oh, you know what? It was him. It was him, right? And part of me makes me think, like, if that's true, it makes me doubt the legitimacy of what they may have been testing out. It doesn't seem like it was a matter of the acting on this guy's part, but maybe the favoritism. But at the same time, I also don't know the extent of this guy's acting, because he only played a flashback Harrison Ford. He was only in it for like 2 minutes of total screen time. So he may not actually be a good actor, but he looks like a young Harrison Ford.
The point is, it should not matter. The quality of the movie should not hinge upon whether the dude looks like another dude who played the character a long time ago, right? If he is acting in a way that's good and reminiscent of the character, that should be enough to carry the storyline. I mean, like, if you're walking in there expecting a Harrison Ford literal copy, you're going to be disappointed. And I wasn't expecting that, and I thought it was a pretty good movie. So.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really... I did see so much potential in Alden's performance in Solo, but I actually wanted more of what is him and not what's an impersonation of someone else, and to see something more original. Because when you're watching Solo, you're thinking of Han Solo, so it's like I want to see something that he does of himself, of his own character that was given to him personally, so I don't have to think of another actor. And when I saw him in this film, I'm like, this is fun. I like him. I want to see more of him. And so I was really happy with his performance, with what he did in here. It makes me want to see more of him.
Yeah. Hopefully he gets some more stuff to work with. But yeah, I mean, just great cast overall. Which, the sad thing about movies like this that have such a great cast, I think of The Murder on the Orient Express. Did you see that one? The remake?
I have not.
Yeah, I mean it's alright. I don't really recommend it. It's okay.
Oh, never mind. I won't.
Well, no. You definitely should to form your own opinion. I'm just saying it's not like show-stopping. But anyway, it's very similar in that you've got. I mean, like there's in the original book, there's like 15 characters, and like every character in the movie is played by an A-lister movie star, you know. And when you get to that point in a movie, it just feels like, you know, there is a purpose for. What's the word? What's the word they use in the movie? Extras. There's a purpose for extras. Oh, yeah. There's a purpose for people who aren't yet that big, and yet get roles in films because they're supposed to be forgettable. And this film chooses not to do that, which could be argued is part of the satire, because they have that whole discussion on extras and not. And the fact that this movie literally does not have anyone that's not important. I mean, you just gave us a list of people that are... I mean, the dude that pops out of the submarine for like 30 seconds is like actually a pretty big movie star. So,
right.
All that to say, it takes away from their performance. And it's a little sad when you see like your favorite movie star and they only get a minute of screen time. But at the same time, you know, maybe you guys have to decide whether that's part of what this movie is trying to do or not.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I had a blank out. I don't know why. Don't ask why. I was looking at all of the things Clancy Brown has done. Don't mind me.
Oh, goodness.
See, this is what happens when you keep casting a bunch of really famous people in every single role. Now I'm getting distracted by what those people did in other movies that I'm not even focusing on what they're doing in this movie.
Anyway. But, you know, it's a cool film, but I have to say, I don't know that I like Coen Brothers films from what I've seen.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't dislike this film, but it didn't excite me. You know, and the same way I felt about Inside Llewyn Davis, they intentionally make the film grounded, and they intentionally make the film feel realistic. And maybe as an audience member, I just don't really appreciate that as much.
You know, I actually do. I do like their films, but it's for a very unique reason that I know others wouldn't. And it's casual. It's very casual in its approach. It doesn't want to take itself as being a cinematic event. Yeah. It is supposed to be something that's easy to bring in. You know, I was just going through articles a second ago when looking at the Hail Caesar stuff, and some people were saying that, oh, here's a quarantine film to watch, you know. It's not really something for where, like Star Wars and all these other types of movies, it's not even, let's say, something that is bigger but is a more subtle story than science fiction. What is it called? The one with the Russian and American exchange of spies. Bridge of Spies. Bridge of Spies is grounded in the real world events, but it has good actors, Tom Hanks and all that. Bigger budget and bigger box office, and it's very eventful, very emotional, very impactful, right? Very cinematic. These movies don't really care about being eventful and cinematic in that sense. I think they're very casual of that things are happening, and like an episode of a show, you're just kind of going along for the ride to see little fun performances, and that they're not trying to be the next big whoa thing. It's just something that you watch for fun around sometime, you know? Like, hey, let's put this in. Something more casual. Something that won't make me have heartburn at 9 p.m.
Okay. Highly specific.
Well, I mean, it's just like no giant basses going boom, right? It's the conflicts are subtle. And even the villains are fun. They're funny in a sense. And it's just like interesting. I thought it was going to go down a big old boom route when they started showing off the nuclear power and all that. Yeah. But they didn't actually bring that to fruition. So it's like, huh.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that was a weird little snippet. Yeah, I think it has something to do with just the way audiences are fed today. I mean, we're fed on blockbusters and we're fed on really fast and action-packed films, and I that's why I said I don't think this is a bad film, and it's not that I didn't like it. It's that I, as a modern audience member, have to adjust to watch a film like this. And I think that is really cool, and that's why I will keep watching Coen Brothers films, because it places me in a unique situation where I'm not leaving the theater thrilled or excited or extremely angry because they did something wrong with a character that I loved. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it leaves me in a different situation where I'm reflecting on a film that is specifically artistic. It's not a throwaway film at all, but it's, like you said, very casual, very laid back, very unique. There's a place for these films in society, and that's why they keep being made, and I'm really happy for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want more movies like this, only so that every movie isn't supposed to be a $1,000 billion budget movie that has every universe colliding into one supernova, and we need the big boom boom to make the collapse, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Something that's a little bit more grounded, yet not a real life event. Something that's fun. That's fun. Actually, to make a final point with that is that these actors are almost always used for those kind of big event kind of movies, and sometimes it's just fun to bring them back down to earth and have something a little bit more subtle, something that isn't so crazy, and something a little bit more fun. I say the word fun a lot because, I was just constantly smiling throughout this whole film, but it's not a high adrenaline film either. It's just something that's like, all right, I can groove with this. This is fun, but not everybody's going to feel that way.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's definitely fun. If we could sum it up, that'll be our one word newspaper review. Fun. Period.
Fun. Hail Caesar's fun.
Yeah, like on the movie case, they'll put it. Spoiled Onion says fun.
Fun.
All right.
So should we give it a?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Give it a rating.
Yes, that's what I was just about to say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Joseph, you say the rating first, and then I'll say mine.
Oh, darn it! I wanted you to go first.
Fine, I'll go first. Here I go. You ready?
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
85. 85.
85. Okay.
85. Yeah, 85. That's pretty all right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking. Oh, I actually didn't really give this much thought till 2 seconds ago. I think I have to say, oh man, it's hard. All right, I'm just gonna go with 70. And my justification is that while this is a good film, it's just not one that will stick with me, and it's not one that I think has rewatchability. So.
Wow, that's interesting. You know what? And that's the beauty of films. This is the first time I'm gonna say this in Spoiled Onions, is that sometimes there's just some movies out there that are not so insanely divisive. There's not, a million reasons or such excruciating scenes that for one person is the most awful thing ever, and then for another is the most beautiful thing ever, right? It's just that sometimes certain tones and certain narratives, just resonate and bring some sort of feeling to one person that is enjoyable, and to the others, like, yeah, I understand that, but it's just not really my taste. Just like with food, and just like with novels, there's just certain styles that people like more, and that doesn't make it bad. It just makes it something that certain people have a taste for. And for me, I kind of like relaxing a little bit and not having to worry about going to the bathroom and pee at the movie theater when I have to go, and I can come back and not have the entire planet have blown up by the time I get back.
Yeah, I would like to see one of their films in the theater. I think that'd be interesting, because that's definitely a different. If theaters survive, rip. But I think it'd be interesting. It's funny.
The reason I deducted 15 points too is because I think the tone oftentimes is shifting, and I don't know if it's necessarily a negative thing, but moments for where it genuinely could have been a beautiful scene. That it's almost ironic, because I know what's happening when it's happening. George Clooney, when he's doing that big speech at the end, yes. I myself was emotional. I myself was getting teary with the music and all that playing. That it's like, this is some good dialogue right here. The writer did a really good job, and then they cut it off for a quick gaffe. And it's just like, you could have waited on the gaffe until he was done with the speech. But I get what they were trying to do there, but you could have probably given me at least something to bring home with and brag about a scene. but you exchanged it all for a short laugh or a short giggle, when you could have given me something that was genuinely impactful, even almost in an ironic sense, because clearly as directors you know exactly what you're doing. The directors of this movie are Jewish, which is funny, and that goes into more of those commentaries of what's happening throughout the film. It's just like they themselves aren't Christian, yet they're capable of writing a story that would use the we know what resonates with people, we know what gets them emotional, and they're right. It got me emotional, and they just cut it off for a quick gaffe. So I don't know, maybe that was just for some fun for the directors and people who are in Hollywood who know those gimmicks, that when that didn't happen the way that they expected, it really is funny for them. They're like they're laughing their heads off when it's just like, haha, we're not gonna give it to you, we're gonna this, because it's the reality for the actor. The actor does mess up like that, and it's not resonating with them like it does the audience, because they're the ones who keep messing up their lines. So for moments like that, it doesn't make it a perfect film of whatever style it's trying to do. I think it gets to it'll exchange really monumental scenes for a gaffe, and I feel like that's something that's lost.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's ultimately part of the satire, so
right,
take it as you will. But
yeah,
all right, put a bow on this guy. So awesome! Thanks so much.
Close it out.
These pauses, man. Thanks so much for joining us for what episode?
No,
I don't
do it
even
again because I'm yelling.
Oh, okay. All right, pause.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Let's put a bow on this guy. I don't even know what episode. I won't know until really it publishes, because I kind of lost track. But we're nearing the 10 mark, which is a milestone. So, if you guys have listened to every episode up until this one, and this one included, I mean, congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, exactly.
This podcast is made possible from viewers like you.
Mm-hmm. And
Thank
Wikipedia, who sponsored. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, right.
No, but yeah, really, this is something we have a lot of fun doing, and it helps us when we know people are enjoying it as well. So if you do like it, whatever platform you're on, subscribe, follow, do whatever it takes to make sure that you are notified when an episode goes live or goes on. Yeah, you get the point. And feel free to like, and pretty soon we should have a way where you can actually go to the Instagram, because pretty soon we're going to have a way where you can vote directly on what kind of films you'd like us to watch. But of course, always just leave a comment on a YouTube video or and tell us what you'd like us to see next.
Thank you for watching The Spoiled Onion Show. My name is Brandon, and that was Joyo. And we'll see you next week in the next movie podcast.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Anyway.
Okay, well, I'm happy for you, bro.
Did you not like the movie? You never told me this before.
I didn't want to ruin it for you,
Joseph. I thought you were on my side.
I was just happy that you liked it. I gave you the speech before. Now, I can't believe the people listening are going to have to hear this. It's kind of sad. Joseph, this is my philosophy with the Star Wars movies. If somebody genuinely likes the sequels, if somebody genuinely likes the spin-offs and all that, I like Rogue One. I see its flaws, though. But
you don't like Solo? Wow.
I personally really don't like Solo.
Oh, my gosh.
It's better. I'll say this. It's better than all the sequels. It's better than all the sequels, I'll say that. But I even like Rogue One more than Solo. And there's a few different reasons. But the thing is that I didn't care to tell you those things, because when you told me you genuinely liked it, I didn't want to convince you otherwise. I want people to like what they like. If it brings them happiness, like the movie, it's like they actually enjoy it. It's like, what kind of sicko would I be to be like, no, you need to hate it like me. I want you to suffer like I do. It's like, no, my hope is that people like the movies that they go and see, and that I could like the movies I go and see. Why would I want to jeopardize that? That's what movies are for.
In a nutshell, what was your biggest problem with it? That he didn't look like Harrison Ford?
I was not convinced that this was Han Solo.
Oh, goodness. All right, so let me put it this way. Remove Han Solo from the equation. Erase every Star Wars film that's ever been made except that one. Is it a good film?
remove Han Solo. What do you
like
mean?
remove the 70s movies, make this just an original film about some random dude named Han Solo. Is it a good film?
Actually, there's the sense of that it falls a little flat. And where it falls flat actually does come down to some acting parts, but it's actually the story's fault. And I don't blame the original directors. I blame the directing problems that the movie went through, and the reshoots and all that. I know exactly why it ended up like it did, and so much of it is hinged on the fact that you already know what happens. That when you see these things play out the way they do, if you didn't know those other things, it would make you think, so what? So what about this gambler? Who is he? I don't care, right? And they gave me no reason to expect that I should care, other than that is Lando, right? It's in fact, like you said, remove everything else, then what is it? That's actually my point, is that this movie is only capable of being as good as it can be by acknowledging those other films. That if you were to watch all the Star Wars movies in chronological order, that when you saw that for the first time, you would just think, well, that was awfully random. There was a lot of things happening that didn't really seem to have a significance of itself, right? Things like the Kessel Run are only made significant because of what the other movies established. And when you understand like certain key plot elements of what's going on, and are they just dismissed on another second? Lando liking a robot, then not liking a robot, the robot resistance, and then no robot resistance. And it's just like things are just happening. The girl was on the planet. Han Solo said he's coming back for her, but then almost completely forgets about her the moment he gets freedom. And then it's like he joined the Empire. You could drop out. I don't even know how he got as far as he did with the Empire. But even those things are plot holes. But these, those ideas of like, how did you get off? And she's just like, how'd you get out of it? She's like, I didn't. It's just like, well, it looks like you kind of did. It's just like, well, no, I'm not. I'm just a slave to a different person. And it's just, it's hinging on that there is more going on outside of this that we don't know. And frankly, because of its reception, we will never know. And it's like, it's not good.
That's fair. That's
sorry, Joseph. Genuine. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No. That's
Hail
fair.
Caesar.
Yeah, all right. Let's bring it back home to Hail Caesar. This will have to be like the Christmas double feature special.
Yeah. We'll put in parentheses and a Han Solo rant. You know what? You probably should.
No. Listen. I'll just edit that part out, and it'll be like a mini-sode. Just be like,
you put it in the post. You put it in the post credits.
The post credits. Yeah.
You'll put the and then you'll have that going at the end there as an extra.
That's fair though. I'll give that to you. But anyway.
Oh man.
So yeah, cool.
Here, you're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna edit this back into there. Watch this.